for Signs by Mila Renken. What if joy is not the absence of suffering, but its sacred counterpart? What if the depth of our pain carves out the very space where happiness can one day reside? Rumi, in his 13th century poem, The Guest House, invites us to greet every visitor, sorrow, shame, fear, delight, as though each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Be grateful for whoever comes, he writes, because each has been sent as a guide. It is a radical invitation. When the waves crash without warning and the ground gives way beneath our feet, gratitude feels like the last language we can speak. In those moments, we are not composed or wise. We are simply trying to breathe. And yet, over time, I have come to believe that something unseen steadies us. There have been moments in my own life, quiet, unmistakable moments, when help arrived in ways too precise to be a coincidence. A whisper in the dark, a stranger placed perfectly in my path, a door opening just as another closed. I have felt guided when I could not see the way forward. I have sensed that even in my falling, I was not alone. Perhaps the chaos is not the point. Perhaps what matters is how we rise from it, how we allow it to shape us, soften us, awaken us. Resiliency is not loud. It does not demand applause. It is the quiet, holy decision to stand again when everything in you wants to stay on the ground. It is the trusting that the pain has not come to destroy you, but to expand you. Without resiliency, reinvention is only a wish. With it, we become something greater than we were, deeper, wiser, more attuned to the invisible currents carrying us forward. Perhaps every loss is a clearing space. Perhaps every ending is making room. Perhaps we are being led gently, persistently toward a life more expansive and more beautiful than we ever imagined. I call that guiding presence God. Others may call it the universe, spirit, Buddha, or by some other sacred name. The language matters less than the understanding that we are part of something larger than our individual fears and failures. When we remember that we are held by something greater than ourselves, resilience becomes less about striving and more about trust. It was the summer of 1987. I was sitting in a park in the middle of London, head in my hands, weeping, the kind of crying that doesn't stop and cannot be hidden from others around you. My summer job as a nanny was beginning today. I was waiting in the park for the lady of the house to gather me and my suitcase and begin the journey to a small country town just north of Oxford. I was anxious, scared, and needed encouragement. I gathered my coins and dragged the heavy suitcase to a quintessential red phone booth on the sidewalk. A phone call with my boyfriend back in the States was what I thought was the answer. Hearing a woman's voice on the other end of the phone brought me to my knees. And so I found myself crying in a park in the middle of London. A man, maybe 6 feet tall, dark, unassuming, walked over to me with his hands cupped, as if he was carrying something precious that needed protection. He asked me if I knew what he was holding. It was a baby tadpole swimming in the water he held in his hands. He released the tadpole and asked me if I wanted to get a drink. The pub across the street seemed safe enough, so I agreed. The pub was small and dark, hard to see who was inside after walking out of the sunlight. When my eyes adjusted, I recognized my aunt and uncle from Arizona. I immediately felt a sense of relief. I was safe with family. The mysterious stranger said, "I see you have found your family. It's time for me to leave." As quickly as he appeared, he left, and I relaxed in the comfort of my aunt's embrace. Serendipity? I don't think so. I didn't know they were traveling in London, nor did they know I was there. The angel brought them to me, and peace returned. That was just one of many times I have felt guided by angels. Sarah McLachlan's song, Angels, filled my car the moment I turned the key. I was walking away from my uncle's hospital room after saying goodbye for the last time. Send me a sign, Uncle Klaus. Let me know that you have made it to the other side. Watch over me. He lifted his hand ever so slightly and gave me the smallest wave goodbye. He had not moved for weeks nor shown any signs that his body could continue. He did not want machines to hold him here. I had promised him that when the time came, I would sign the papers to release him from his pain and suffering. He made sure I knew that he was in the arms of the angels before I drove away. Resilience doesn't mean you have to fight out the darkness alone. It is the opposite. Redemption is in front of you when you reach for the angels. They are everywhere. When most people think of Uber, they think of transportation, convenience, safety, the freedom to relax and be carried from one destination to another. No parking worries, no navigating, just trust the driver and arrive. But Ubers are more than that now. They deliver food, packages, and in my case, a letter from God. The plane had landed at Midway for a short layover before continuing to New York. I was excited to see my son, whom I had missed terribly. My lipstick slipped from my hand and fell to the floor. I bent down to retrieve it, and when I stood up, the world tilted. It felt as if someone had shifted the horizon. I tried to walk. I couldn't move in a straight line. My speech came out garbled, thick, as if I had been drinking Bloody Marys for the entire flight. The flight attendant saw me struggling. "Are you okay?" The words wouldn't form. I shook my head no. Flashing ambulance lights, sirens piercing the afternoon air, the unmistakable detour, not to New York City, but to a hospital. The diagnosis was swift, a TIA, a mini stroke. The scan showed no immediate damage. My instructions, fly directly home and follow up with a neurologist. Home? I wasn't going home. I was going to New York. I felt fine. Maybe it was vertigo. I could deal with it later. But later came quickly. The earliest appointment I could get with a neurologist was a month out. My second TIA arrived before that date did. More scans, what my doctor called the $1 million workup. This time, there was no ambiguity. My left carotid artery was 90% occluded. Blood flow to my brain was severely restricted. Medication alone or medication plus a stent. No guarantees either way. The procedure was scheduled. It's a difficult yet simple procedure, they told me. One and done. Get it right the first time. There are no mulligans with the brain. The day before surgery, I called for an Uber to take me home from an appointment. When the car pulled up, I looked twice. The young woman inside had a kind face, softer than the condition her car suggested. The vehicle looked tired. Papers were scattered across the front seat. I climbed in and sat quietly in the back. Outside, the sky was breathtaking. Palm trees swayed. Clouds drifted lazily as the sun pushed through. It felt almost too beautiful for the anxiety I was carrying. We pulled into my driveway. Instead of stopping at the curb, she turned off the engine. Odd. She turned around slowly and looked at me. "I have a letter for you from God," she said. "May I give it to you?" She handed me an envelope. I didn't open it immediately. How could she possibly know I was having brain surgery the next morning? She couldn't. I told her anyway. She didn't look surprised. She gently placed her hands on my head. "May I pray for you?" Her prayer was steady and confident, for healing, for strength, for peace. When she finished, she told me her name, Maria. It was not lost on me. Throughout Scripture, Maria stands at the crossroads of transformation, births, resurrections, liberation. The name carries devotion, resilience, faith in uncertainty, maternal strength. Maria is tenderness and steel. It is a name that knows sorrow and still sings, a name that watches over what it loves, a name that says yes to God even when the future is unknown. I stepped out of the car and walked into the house. My children were in the living room. I held up the envelope. "We don't have to worry," I said. "I just got a letter from God." I'm going to be just fine. I read it aloud. Dear child, scripture after scripture, messages of faith, hope, love. It was signed, Love Your Dad. The message was clear, resilience rooted in faith. We are never alone. Embedded in every obstacle is opportunity. Each hit cuts the diamond. We are refined, not ruined by pressure. Reinvention is not something we plan. It is something that happens when life presses hard enough to reveal who we truly are. The strokes, the stent, the fear. They were not interruptions, they were invitations. There is a rusty tin sign that hangs crooked on my oak tree that reads, "Miracles happen." I believe they do. Everyday miracles that catch you when you feel like you're falling, brokenhearted or lost. I believe that they are sent from God to help me find my way, to give me courage when taking another step feels impossible. I believe we are part of something much greater than what we can see. We are connected to a higher power. What you call that higher power matters less than the knowing that we are not alone. Whether you call the unexplainable coincidences synchronicity, alchemy, or miracles, they are invitations to remember our connection. Why not believe? Who would it hurt? And maybe, just maybe, the knowing that you are not alone empowers you to face the fears and obstacles that ultimately build the resilience that leads you to a life you never imagined. I share the moments when God nudges me carefully, sometimes softly, other times unmistakably. Not everyone is open, and being labeled as crazy is not a badge I care to wear. Some of the miracles are so unbelievable that even I question them. Were they exaggerations, wishful thinking, a figment of my imagination? But there was one I captured in a photograph, a sign from my higher power that would change the course of my life. In my 30s, there was a time I believed life was not worth living. I was certain that my 3 children would be better off without me, that my husband would remarry quickly and love someone else in the way he couldn't love me. The darkness had chased me for years. This time it caught me. I fell hard and fast. I had buried my childhood trauma so deeply that when a whisper of truth finally reached the light, it burned. The pain ignited. My thoughts felt like torture. My mind was on fire. The bottle of Vicodin on my dresser looked like relief, but it wasn't. A quiet voice inside told me to stop and drive to my therapist's office, and I did. I needed help now. Therapy is brutal work. Excavating old wounds and facing the present truth was soul-crushing. But my therapist held hope when I could not. She believed there was a light on the other side of the suffering. With the right combination of medication and relentless honesty, the depression could soften. I could learn to live skillfully the life God intended for me. She didn't let me quit. She fought back tears when the rawness of my pain was almost too much to witness. Somehow I came back. And I believed with my whole heart that if I could return from the dark night of the soul, anyone could. That belief led me back to graduate school to become a marriage and family therapist. If my suffering could serve someone else's healing, then reinvention would become redemption. Still, saying yes to graduate school terrified me. I forfeited admission deposits more than once. Imposter syndrome stood in front of me like a guard. Stay small. Don't risk it. The humiliation of failure felt heavier than the desire to help others find meaning in their suffering. One crisp fall afternoon, hours before my first class, I sat in my car crying, convincing myself it was fine to walk away again. The family needed me. Time away from my kids was selfish. It wasn't the right season. Second-guessing myself had become a well-practiced skill. I turned onto a street I drive every day and suddenly pulled over. Cars sped past, honking. A sign clearly read, "No stopping at any time," but I had to stop. In the middle of the parkway, stuck in the grass, was a sign I had never seen before, with bold black letters, "Trust yourself." I had asked for a sign, a confirmation, and there it was. I was stunned. I took a photograph, proof. I drove around the block and rushed back for a selfie, but it was gone, vanished within minutes. The message was not for everyone. It was for me, and it was received. My path to becoming a therapist began that day. There would be no stopping me. When I was in my 40s, I would laugh and describe my life as a shit show. At 58, I see it much differently. It has been the heartache and the grace woven together that has driven my reinvention. Over the years, the guidance has continued to meet me in unexpected ways, and my story is far from over. I will keep stopping for signs and believing there are no coincidences. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? There is so much more to write. What if you started looking for signs, small messages meant just for you in moments of uncertainty? I am not special, but I am a seeker, open to the mysteries of life. And when you begin to look, you realize something quite extraordinary. The impossible is possible. All you have to do is start looking.